Okay, so picture this. It's 30 years ago, and the World Wide Web is, well, it's pretty much a blank canvas, a new, kind of strange, and mostly empty digital frontier. And right in the middle of that frontier, one person decided he was going to put an entire country on the map. This is the incredible and mostly unknown story of the very first website about Bangladesh and the student who built it all from scratch.
It all kicked off with a question. A really simple, but, a deeply frustrating one for Dr. Zunaid Kazi, who was a PhD student in the US at the time. He just kept hearing it over and over again because back in the early 90s, getting information about his home country abroad was nearly impossible. And that simple question? It became the spark for a project that would end up defining an entire era of the early web. To really get this, we have to rewind to 1993. And what's wild is just how fast everything was moving. In April, the web becomes public property. By September, we get the first easy-to-use browser. In just a couple of months after that, our story begins. We're talking about a time when the whole idea of a website was completely new to almost everyone.
So, who's the person behind all this? It's Dr. Zunaid Kazi. He was a PhD student at the University of Delaware, working on artificial intelligence. He and his buddies at the research lab were just totally captivated by this new web technology. So, they set up one of the very first web servers. Little did he know, he was about to become a kind of digital ambassador for his entire country.
You gotta remember, back then, if you were a Bangladeshi living abroad, your options for connecting with home were pretty slim. You had super expensive phone calls and this thing called Usenet. Think of it like a really, really early version of a text-only internet forum. It was just a trickle of information. Dr. Kazi saw the brand new World Wide Web as a way to turn that little trickle into a flood. So in between writing his dissertation and, get this, teaching robots, he started coding. And this wasn't some big funded project, right? Not at all. It literally started as just one single page, a personal project he built during the quiet, late hours at the lab. All because he was tired of explaining where Bangladesh was, and he just wanted to share a piece of his culture. But, of course, it didn't stay just one page for long. No way. What started out as a simple fix for a frustrating question quickly blossomed into something way, way more ambitious. The project just started to evolve in these incredible ways. And you can literally watch the ambition grow just by looking at how the name changed over time. It started with this kind of poetic single-page title, then it grew to the Bangladesh homepages, plural, right, signifying a lot more content. And finally, it landed on Virtual Bangladesh, a name that just perfectly captured its huge ultimate goal, to be a complete, comprehensive digital version of the nation itself. And believe me, it really did become a digital encyclopedia. This was the whole shebang. We're not just talking a list of facts. You could dive deep into the nation's struggle for independence, take Bengali language lessons, go on a virtual multimedia tour, and even get super practical advice on travel and culture. It was basically a one-stop shop for anyone even remotely curious about the country. I love this quote from him because it just perfectly captures his vision. He didn't just want to build a website, he wanted to build a whole world. A place with digital streets and bylanes that you could actually explore, getting lost in this absolute treasure trove of information about his home. So what was the result of all this work? Well, honestly, it was staggering. For millions of people all over the world, Virtual Bangladesh didn't just represent the country online. For a very long time, it was the country online. It became the primary gateway, a nation's digital front door to the entire planet. And it wasn't just a few people noticing. I mean, the whole world started to take notice. We're talking major, major awards. In 2001, Britannica.com named it one of the best sites on the entire internet. The BBC featured it on its Best of the Web guide. It was even listed in a physical book, the World Wide Web Yellow Pages, way back in 1996. This was not some niche project. It was a celebrated global resource. But here's the kicker, the really crucial part. For almost 2 decades, if you typed Bangladesh into any search engine, Google, AltaVista, you name it, this was the first thing that popped up, number 1. In a world before Wikipedia, before Facebook, being number 1 meant you were the authority. It was the de facto digital embassy for an entire nation. But, as impressive as all those awards and rankings are, the real story, the real impact, that came from the users themselves. These were people, many of them part of the global diaspora, who were seeing their culture represented online in this rich, detailed, dignified way for the very first time. I mean, just listen to this.
This is feedback from 1993, right when the site first went live. You can just feel the emotion in it. It's not just, hey, nice website. It's pure pride. It's gratitude. It's this immediate sense of connection and that powerful urge to go tell everyone you know about it.
Okay, and then there's this one from 1994. This one just blows me away. I was scared to use this internet thing. For this person, Virtual Bangladesh wasn't just some website. It was a bridge. It took this new, scary, intimidating technology called the internet and made it feel familiar. It made it feel welcoming and important. It made it feel like home.
But, things change. The internet of 1994, it's a completely different universe from the one we live in today. And as the web evolved, so did the story of Virtual Bangladesh. Its role was bound to change, becoming less of a living, breathing embassy and more of a time capsule.
It really went from being this essential, top-ranked, always-growing resource to what the creator himself now calls a museum piece. It's basically frozen in time, a perfect, beautiful snapshot of what the web was like in those early, pioneering days.
And it's important to see this change not as a failure, but actually as the ultimate sign of success. As internet access started to grow inside Bangladesh itself, the country's online presence just exploded. That need for one single central hub just wasn't there anymore. Dr. Kazi's own life changed too, leaving less time for what was a massive project. The digital embassy had done its job. Because in the end, after all these years, it all comes back to this one simple thing. 30 years later, the reason behind it is exactly the same. It was never about the awards or the search rankings. It was, and it still is, simply a labor of love, a passion project from a student who just wanted to share his home with the world. So, the story of Virtual Bangladesh really makes you think, doesn't it? As the internet keeps changing at this insane, lightning speed, you have to wonder, what other digital museum pieces are out there? And what did these incredible early artifacts of the web teach us about where we've been? And maybe, just maybe, where we're going next?